What do you do when you realize your life has been a battle for respect, and your marriage is built on manipulation and disregard? I'm Jessica, 29 years old, and I've been working from home for the past few years. My husband Henry and I have been married for 3 years now. Before I transitioned to remote work, I had a consulting role at a large corporation, managing online operations. My decision to switch to freelancing came unexpectedly when I became pregnant, and I chose to leave my corporate job to focus on this new chapter of my life. With my background in marketing, I've been able to secure freelance consulting projects and manage online operations, which has proven financially rewarding. However, Henry doesn't quite understand the nature of my work. He tends to see it as a hobby rather than a legitimate career, often not realizing that I do earn an income. Working from home has allowed me the flexibility I needed during my pregnancy and ensured a smooth delivery of our daughter, Clara. For the first month after Clara was born, I stayed with my parents for support, but Henry urged me to return to our apartment. Despite my plans to stay for 3 months, I agreed to shorten it to just 1. Since moving back home, I've managed to juggle both work and caring for Clara without any financial issues. But one day, my mother-in-law, Ophelia, suggested we live together. While we've always had a decent relationship, I was hesitant about the potential dynamics that could arise. I agreed on the condition that we build a duplex, ensuring there would be space for everyone. To my surprise, my in-laws were thrilled at the prospect of living together, and we quickly moved forward with the idea. I found a construction company that could meet our needs and oversaw the purchase and construction of the property. 6 months later, our new duplex was ready. It had shared spaces, including a common entrance, and a cozy second floor with a small kitchen and living area. The project stayed within budget, which eased my financial concerns. When the house was finished, my in-laws were overjoyed, and their happiness reassured me. Ophelia volunteered to help take care of Clara, which I initially saw as a great support for my work. But soon, my optimism faded. Once we started living together, Ophelia began imposing household chores on me, even during my work hours. She would barge into my office demanding things like, "I'm hungry, make me something right now," or, "Hurry up and do the laundry, there's dust everywhere." She would even guilt-trip me, saying, "If you don't clean, my allergies will act up," or complain about Clara's cries, insisting, "She's so noisy, do something about it." These constant interruptions made it impossible to focus on my work. As a result, I often found myself working late into the night, struggling to meet deadlines while also trying to care for Clara, which started taking a toll on my mental and physical health. When I finally spoke to Henry about Ophelia's behavior, he didn't support me. Instead, he told me, "You're the wife. You should naturally obey." Each time I raised a complaint, his response was dismissive. Even when I tried to explain, "I'm not just playing on my computer, I'm working seriously," he refused to understand. Cameron, my father-in-law, echoed Henry and Ophelia's sentiments, saying things like, "Working from home isn't serious, it's more like a hobby." He and Henry seemed to lack any faith in my work. Their constant skepticism began to erode my confidence. I started to feel worthless and feared that I might eventually be abandoned due to my perceived inadequacies. That one day, when Henry was off from work and everyone was at home, I was working with Clara beside me when Henry abruptly burst into the room with a loud noise. "Come to my parents' room right now," he demanded, completely disregarding Clara, who started crying in response to the disturbance. It seemed deliberate. He must have known Clara was there. Frustrated by Henry and my in-laws' lack of consideration for my work, I comforted Clara and reluctantly headed downstairs. Entering the living room, I found my parents-in-law and Henry engaged in animated conversation. Irritation began to simmer within me, reaching its limit. "What's going on?" I asked calmly, settling down with Clara in my arms. The three of them continued whispering, their secretive demeanor making me uneasy as I waited for them to include me in the discussion. Then Ophelia cleared her throat dramatically and fixed me with a stern look. "You need to leave this house," she declared abruptly. I was taken aback by Ophelia's sudden statement. What did she mean by leave? Was she suggesting I go back to my parents' house temporarily? "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to steady my voice as I stared back at her, searching for an explanation. "It means exactly what I said," she sneered, folding her arms defiantly. I glanced over at Henry, hoping for some clarity, but he just kept smiling placidly. Is he out of his mind, or am I losing mine? I wondered silently. Determined to understand, I took a deep breath and calmly asked Ophelia to explain her statement. Her eyes gleamed with a vindictive satisfaction, and she launched into a diatribe, with a smile that mirrored Henry's. "Every day you neglect the housework, let Clara cry endlessly, and just waste your time playing with your computer and phone. I don't know if you're solely relying on Henry's salary, but you never heed advice, acting like a parasite," Ophelia continued, her laughter ringing out as if she found the situation amusing. "I'm sorry if the housework isn't up to your standards, but I do the essentials, and Clara is well taken care of. She's a calm child," I countered Ophelia's accusations, trying to defend myself. "I can't just abandon my computer and phone, I'm working. Isn't that understandable?" Henry suddenly fixed me with a harsh glare. "Are you cheating or something?" he accused sharply. I stared back at Henry, utterly bewildered by his unfounded accusation. "Yes, Jessica is cheating," Ophelia chimed in, casting a disgusted glance in my direction. Stunned by the accusation, I quickly defended myself. "I'm not cheating. You can see my phone right now to prove it." I reached for my mobile, eager to clear my name, but Henry dismissed my offer with a scoff. "Anyone can fake that, you can't be trusted," he sneered, his words laced with contempt. Realizing that further argument was futile, I reluctantly put my phone back in my pocket. Ophelia, not missing a beat, continued her tirade. "We don't need someone like you here. Parasites like you should leave immediately." Her voice was filled with venom. "Get out now!" she demanded. For a brief moment, I considered leaving with my daughter as the only reasonable option. But one crucial thing stopped me. The duplex house. I had financed it, been involved in every meeting with the construction company, and had overseen its design and completion. I couldn't just walk away from something I'd invested so much into. Besides, the mortgage was in my name, and I doubted Henry's salary alone could cover the living expenses. If I leave, my income leaves too. "Do you think you can manage without it?" I challenged, hoping they would reconsider. Henry scoffed dismissively. "What income? Don't be ridiculous. We've been living off my salary this entire time," he said with complete ignorance. His words almost made me feel sorry for him. With a heavy sigh, I turned to Ophelia. "Dealing with Henry is like taking care of a 6-month-old. Are you up for the challenge? He needs his towels, his underwear, and his pajamas laid out after his bath. His shoes must be polished every day. His shirts need to be perfectly ironed, and his suits need to be pristine and wrinkle-free. If his morning coffee isn't made just right, he throws a tantrum." I doubted Ophelia had the stamina to manage Henry's high-maintenance behavior. "I'm giving you a chance," I said, leaving her with an ultimatum. "I can do a better job than you. You're just playing around," she said, scoffing at my offer. "And besides," she added smugly, "if you leave, he already has someone else in mind." The words hit me like a slap to the face. "What do you mean, Henry?" I demanded, turning my gaze from Ophelia to him. She quickly looked away, and Henry shot her a sharp glance, whispering harshly, "Why did you say that?" Their reaction suggested that, indeed, there was another woman. I fixed Henry with a piercing stare, silently demanding an explanation. Looking uncomfortable, Henry finally spoke, his voice low. "Apparently, I've been seeing a woman named Catherine for a few months now," he admitted. "She's in her early 20s, and she was immediately taken with me. After a business meeting, where she made her feelings clear, we started dating. Catherine is beautiful, poised, and has a great personality," he added with a laugh, almost as if he were proud. I could hardly believe it. Considering Henry's appearance, I couldn't imagine a young woman like that being interested in him. Skeptical, I asked him for proof, thinking, if this is true, I need something to secure my future. Henry pulled up his WhatsApp conversation with Catherine. As I suspected, most of the messages were from him suggesting dates, paying compliments, and making casual small talk. Catherine, on the other hand, seemed cold and distant. Her responses were brief, polite, and professional. There were no emojis, no playful language, just straightforward replies. It was becoming clearer that Henry had likely been exaggerating, or at the very least, lying about the depth of the relationship. Taken aback by Henry's smug expression, I struggled to find words. Quietly, I captured screenshots of the conversation, transferring them to my phone and saving them, just in case they might serve as evidence later. Then I'll leave, I stated firmly. After everything that had unfolded, any warmth I had felt toward Huey had evaporated, and I no longer cared about their reactions. I'm taking Clara with me, I declared, observing Henry and my parents-in-law, seeing Lai pleased by my decision to depart. Henry's demeanor shifted abruptly, his hands dropping to his sides. What are you talking about? You can't raise Cad without any income, he objected sternly. Leave Clara here. Don't be irrational, my parents-in-law chimed in, failing to grasp why I insisted on taking her with me. As far as I'm concerned, I see no reason to leave my daughter in this situation, I argued firmly. I have my own income, and I can't leave her with people who can't adequately care for her. When Clara grows up, she'll work hard and I'll support her, I continued, trying to reason with them. Henry interrupted with nonsensical remarks as I spoke, further frustrating me. Why would I leave Clara? What kind of father does he think he is? My anger. Fueled by Henry's self-centered remarks, oblivious to the repercussions, he's even treating her daughter like a pawn. Fine. Then let's settle custody in court. Get a lawyer ready in the meantime. I'll take care of her. I knew arguing here would only escalate tensions with Henry and my parents, and confident in my decision, I resolved to proceed with legal action without hesitation. Once they acquiesced, I wasted no time in making preparations to leave. Over the next few days, I remained steadfast by my daughter's side, making necessary preparations. I reached out to the construction company that had built her house, laying out my situation in detail. I inquired about reputable real estate agents to sell the property. Nick, the company president, swiftly allied with me, ensuring they would manage everything. True to his word, they arranged a quick and lucrative sale, surprising me with the house fetching a higher price than anticipated thanks to his recent construction, impeccable condition, and prime location. Simultaneously, they secured a suitable apartment for my daughter and me, mindful of my budget constraints, but offering a great place at an affordable rate. I expressed my heartfelt gratitude and wasted no time in preparing for our move. Oh, have you already found a place? Ophelia asked with a hint of amusement as I packed dishes in the living room. Yes, I replied curtly, seeing no reason to elaborate. We'll be quiet without you around, she remarked casually. Well, the one thing I'm grateful for is that you gave birth to Clara. Ophelia chuckled before walking away. Despite her unpleasant demeanor, I'd assessed the apartment, the sofa and dining table which I had purchased seemed too large for the new space, prompting me to decide to sell them. The refrigerator, though slightly oversized, I chose to take with me, marking it with a sticker. I labeled all the furniture and appliances I wanted to keep and snapped photos of the items I planned to part with using my mobile phone. On the day of the move, I deliberately chose a time when Henry and my parents-in-law were out. Henry was at work, and the parents-in-law had been called away to a community event. Armed with the divorce papers Henry had given me, I coordinated with the movers to relocate my belongings. I also arranged for the construction company to handle waste removal for the furniture items I didn't plan to take with me. The move progressed smoothly, and within 2 hours everything was done. A few hours later, I left the house with Clara and began settling into her new apartment. While organizing things, the phone rang. It was Elegia. It was already 5 o'clock in the evening, and I had left before noon, so it seemed she had just realized what had happened. I answered the call cautiously. Jessica, why is the house? And Ophelia's voice came through fluster and loud over the phone. Those things were mine. I got rid of what I didn't need. What's going on? Well, I bought them myself. I have receipts and other proofs of purchase, so there's no need for complaints, I stated with a laugh. Ophelia seems speechless, responding with nonsensical protests. Oh, and I sold the house, so please vacate within a month, I added cheerfully. Ophelia sounded genuinely taken aback. Why would you do that? "The house is in my name since I oversaw its construction and have been paying the mortgage," she tried to argue. But I ended the call before she could say more, my resolve firm. After that, I was bombarded with calls from my in-laws and Henry, but I chose to ignore them all. My focus shifted entirely to settling into the apartment for Clara's comfort, leaving no space for distractions. I also sought legal counsel, ensuring that all future communications went through my lawyer. Months went by, filled with relentless negotiations, and I successfully secured custody of Clara. The reasons were clear. I had financial stability, had been Clara's primary caregiver, and my work-from-home setup allowed me to provide the time and care she needed. Henry, who had assumed custody would automatically be his, was blindsided. His frustration was palpable when he bitterly said, "I never needed that girl anyway," and stormed off, clearly shaken by the decision. The relief of finally enjoying a peaceful life with Clara was immense, but my parents-in-law and Henry still lingered at the house, uncertain of my next move. One day, I received a call from the president of the construction company. With determination, I simply said, "Please evict them," and the president, understanding the situation, chuckled and assured me, "Consider it done," before ending the call. I wasn't sure how he managed to convince Henry and my in-laws to leave, but it seemed like quite the task. A few days later, I received confirmation that they had moved out, and I couldn't help but feel relieved by the efficiency. It was another weight lifted off my shoulders. However, months after the divorce, Henry reached out. By then, the divorce had been finalized, and my parents-in-law had mostly backed off, so I hadn't blocked his number yet. I immediately regretted not changing my number or blocking him sooner. It's been a while. I was just thinking maybe you were starting to miss me," he said, his tone smug. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt freer than ever after the divorce, no longer burdened by his presence. Yet, I listened to his words, and he explained that Catherine had dumped him. Apparently, he thought I was his only option left. The way he was dumped was almost comical. Right after our divorce, he went to Catherine and suggested they could be together, but she shut him down coldly, mistaking his professional demeanor for something more personal. He even showed up at her home, resulting in a restraining order from the police. He tried to claim that I had dumped him, but honestly, I had no interest in hearing his version of events. I hung up while he was still talking and promptly blocked him. I also blocked all messages and later changed my phone number, starting fresh and cutting ties with mutual friends. I later heard that after his failed attempt with Catherine, Henry struggled at work. He had conflicts with clients and eventually resigned. Financially, he was in trouble and had started asking people for loans. It seemed like my parents-in-law might be taking care of him, but with his modest income, it was unlikely he had a stable life. As for me, I'm living a fulfilling life with Clara, focusing entirely on our present, and it brings me immense happiness. What do you do when everything you've invested in your home, your marriage, and your future suddenly becomes a battleground? How far would you go to regain control over your life? Jessica's story shows a woman who not only fought to support her family, but also stood up for her rights and well-being in the face of constant manipulation and disrespect. After building a duplex with her husband, Henry, and his family, things quickly spiraled when her mother-in-law, Ophelia, began undermining her work and imposing unrealistic demands. When Henry sided with his mother and accused her of neglecting her responsibilities, Jessica realized she couldn't continue in a relationship where she wasn't valued. This situation shines a light on the emotional and financial manipulation that often goes unnoticed in relationships. While Jessica's work-from-home setup was legitimate and essential for the family, the lack of support and understanding from Henry and his family was a breaking point. It's a stark reminder that being in a marriage doesn't mean sacrificing your sense of self-worth. Jessica's decision to leave was a powerful act of self-preservation. She chose her daughter and her own future over staying in a toxic environment, regardless of the sacrifices she had made in the past. Do you think Jessica's decision to leave was the right one? How would you have handled a situation where your partner and their family don't support you, even when you've invested so much? If you faced similar struggles, remember, your peace of mind and self-respect should always come first. Like this post, subscribe for more stories, and share your thoughts below. How do you reclaim your sense of self in a relationship?
The steady beep of the heart monitor was the first thing I heard when I opened my eyes. White ceiling, antiseptic smell, scratchy sheets, definitely a hospital room. But something felt wrong. The room was empty. No flowers, no cards, no worried family members dozing in uncomfortable chairs. My name is Alice, and I was about to discover just how alone I really was. "Oh, good. You're awake," a nurse said, bustling in to check my vitals. "You gave everyone quite a scare with that pneumonia. You've been out for nearly a week." "Has my sister Elisa been here?" I asked, my voice raspy from disuse. "Or my parents." The nurse's smile faltered slightly. "I haven't seen any visitors, honey, but I just started my shift." I reached for my phone on the bedside table, wincing at the IV pull. Dozens of missed calls from work, but nothing from family. Strange. I always visited Elisa when she was sick, bringing her favorite soup and trashy magazines. "Miss Douglas?" A man in a suit appeared in the doorway. "I'm from hospital billing. We need to discuss your payment situation." My head was still foggy, but I logged into my banking app while he waited. The screen loaded and my stomach dropped. Where there should have been over $50,000 in savings, there was less than $100. "There must be some mistake," I muttered, checking my other accounts. All drained. "This isn't possible." "I'm afraid without insurance or ability to pay, we'll need to discuss discharge options soon," the billing man said diplomatically. I was still staring at my phone in shock when a familiar voice cut through the tension. "I'll handle the billing situation." Rita Wilkins, my workplace rival of 3 years, stood in the doorway, designer handbag on one arm and determination on her face. "Rita, what are you doing here?" She shooed the billing man away and pulled up a chair. "Covering your ass, apparently. The office was worried when you didn't show up for a week. I did some digging." "I don't understand what's happening," I said, fighting back tears. "My accounts have been systematically drained over the past week," Rita finished. "And I'm willing to bet I know who did it." "Elisa." The name felt like ash in my mouth. "But she's my sister. She wouldn't—" "The same sister who borrowed $15,000 for her emergency dental surgery last year? The one who still hasn't paid you back?" I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. The countless loans, the emotional manipulation, the way my parents always took her side. "She had access to my accounts, for emergencies because she's family." Rita's laugh was bitter. "Family. Right. The same family that hasn't visited once while you were fighting for your life?" "Maybe they didn't know." "They knew." Rita pulled out her phone, showing me a group text from my mother to the extended family. "Alice is in the hospital with pneumonia. Elisa is handling everything." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. While I lay unconscious, my sister had stolen everything, and my parents had let her. "Why are you helping me?" I asked Rita. "We've never exactly been friends." "Because 3 years ago my own sister did something similar," Rita said, her expression hardening, "and I wish someone had been there to help me fight back." "Fight back?" "Yes, fight back. You've spent years being the responsible one, the good daughter, the generous sister, and look where it got you." Rita leaned forward. "I have resources, Alice. I have connections. And I am offering to help you get justice." I thought about all the times I'd covered for Elisa, all the money I'd given her, all the family events where I was criticized while she was praised. The empty hospital rooms seemed to echo with years of taken-for-granted sacrifices. "Why now?" I asked. "Why offer this when we've been rivals for so long?" "Because I've watched you work your arse off while living in your sister's shadow. Because I respect your abilities, even if we don't always get along. And because—" Rita smiled grimly. "I really hate seeing manipulative people win." The heart monitor beeped steadily as I considered her words. The old Alice would have forgiven and forgotten, would have found some way to excuse Elisa's behaviour. But the old Alice hadn't woken up alone in a hospital bed, betrayed and robbed by her own blood. "Okay," I said finally. "I'm in. Where do we start?" Rita's smile turned predatory. "First, We get you out of here. Then, we start gathering evidence, because your sister made one crucial mistake. What's that? She thought you'd never wake up to catch her. Rita's guest room was twice the size of my old apartment bedroom. I sat cross-legged on the plush bed, surrounded by bank statements and transaction records she'd helped me obtain. "Look at this," I said, holding up a printed statement. 3 separate withdrawals of $10,000 each, all within hours of me being admitted to the hospital. Rita peered over my shoulder, her reading glasses perched on her nose. And all from different branch locations. She was trying to avoid suspicion. I still can't believe she thought this through so carefully. My hands shook as I sorted through more papers. While I was fighting for my life, she was driving around town, emptying my accounts. People show their true colors when they think no one's watching. Rita handed me a cup of coffee and sat down beside me. "Want to hear how I learned that lesson?" I nodded, grateful for any distraction from the mounting evidence of my sister's betrayal. 3 years ago, my sister Diane was executor of our father's estate, Rita began, her voice tight. By the time I realized something was wrong, she'd liquidated most of his assets and moved to France with her boyfriend. Did you ever get justice? No, but I got something better. I built my own success bigger than anything she could have stolen. Rita's smile was sharp. And now I get Christmas cards from our mother asking for money, while Diane's living in a studio apartment in Paris, her boyfriend long gone. A text notification lit up my phone. My mother's name appeared on the screen. "Why aren't you answering Elisa's calls? She's worried about you." "Worried about getting caught, more likely," I muttered, showing Rita the message. "Perfect timing. I have something to show you." Rita pulled out her laptop. "Remember when you mentioned Elisa's new car? The Mercedes she said she got an amazing deal on? Yeah. Well, I had my friend at the dealership pull the paperwork." Rita turned the screen toward me. "Look at the date of purchase." My stomach lurched. The day after I went into the hospital. And the down payment amount? $15,000. Exactly what she took from my savings account that morning. The reality of her calculated betrayal hit me fresh. She must have been planning this, waiting for an opportunity. There's more. Rita clicked through several screens. She's also made reservations at a luxury resort in Bali for next month. First-class tickets, premium suite. Using my money. I felt sick. All those times she said she was broke, that she needed help with rent. She was playing you. Just like she played your parents. Rita closed the laptop. "Speaking of which, how many times has your mother texted you about forgiving family today?" "Only 3 so far. New record." I tried to laugh, but it came out more like a sob. Rita squeezed my shoulder. "You know what the hardest part is? Accepting that they'll never admit they were wrong. Your parents will keep defending her, keep trying to guilt you into letting it go. Like they did with the college fund incident." A bitter memory surfaced. "When Elisa borrowed my college savings for her failed boutique, Mom said I was being selfish for being upset. Said family helps family." "And who helped you when you had to take out student loans?" "No one. I worked 2 jobs through college while Elisa was posting Instagram photos from Cancun." Rita stood up abruptly. "Get dressed. We're going out." "What? Where?" "To meet someone who can help us build an airtight case against your sister, because this isn't just about the money anymore, is it?" I thought about years of manipulation, of being cast as the villain for expecting basic decency, of watching Elisa charm her way out of consequences while I cleaned up her messes. "No," I said firmly. "It's about justice." "Good answer." Rita tossed me a coat. "My friend Heath is a forensic accountant. He's expecting us for dinner." As we drove through the city, another text came through, this time from Elisa herself. "Alice, please call me. I can explain everything. We're family." I showed it to Rita, who snorted. "Family doesn't empty your bank account while you're in a coma." "No," I agreed, turning off my phone. "They don't." Rita pulled into the parking lot of an upscale restaurant. "Ready to start fighting back?" I thought about the Mercedes my sister was driving, bought with my stolen money. About the luxury vacation she was planning while I rebuilt my life from scratch. About our parents, who would rather believe her lies than face the truth about their golden child. More than ready, I said, stepping out of the car. It's time Elisa learned that karma doesn't care about family ties. Heath was nothing like I expected. Instead of a stuffy accountant in a suit, he was a tattooed man with kind eyes and a disarming smile. He listened intently as Rita and I laid out the situation over appetizers. Your sister's clever, but not as clever as she thinks, Heath said, spreading documents across the table. See these transactions? She tried to make them look like regular withdrawals, but there's a pattern. What kind of pattern? I leaned forward, studying the papers. She withdrew just under $10,000 each time to avoid triggering bank reporting requirements. Classic amateur move. He circled several entries, but she got sloppy with the timing. All these transactions happened within 48 hours. Rita nodded. That's called structuring. It's illegal. Very illegal, Heath confirmed. And I found something else interesting. He pulled up a website on his tablet. Your sister's been running a side business, selling luxury goods online. Want to guess where the inventory comes from? My blood ran cold as I recognized several items in the photos. Those are my things, my designer bags, my jewelry. I stopped at a familiar image. That's Mom's anniversary ring, the one she claimed she lost last year. Elisa's been selling family heirlooms? Rita's eyebrows shot up. Along with quite a few counterfeits, Heath added. Which is another federal offense. My phone buzzed. A text from Carson, my ex. We need to talk. It's about Eliza. Carson? Rita read over my shoulder. Isn't he the one who broke up with you right after Eliza started working at his company? Yeah, that was weird timing. I frowned at the message. He never gave me a real explanation. Reply, Heath suggested. He might have useful information. I typed quickly, when and where. The response came immediately. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Capital Coffee, come alone. It could be a trap, Rita warned. Elisa might have put him up to this. Or he might know something important. I showed them another text from Carson. Bring a USB drive. Heath whistled low. Definitely sounds like he's got dirt. I'll go, I decided. But I want you both nearby, just in case. Smart girl. Rita raised her wine glass. Now, let's talk about phase 2 of our plan. Heath pulled out more papers. I've documented every illegal transaction, every fraudulent sale. But we need to be strategic about how we use this information. What do you mean? Your sister's got your parents wrapped around her finger, he explained. If we move too fast, they'll help her cover it up. We need to build an undeniable case. And then? I asked. Then we hit her with everything at once. No time to spin stories, no chance to manipulate the narrative. Rita's smile was wolfish. We take away what she values most, her image. My phone lit up again. My mother this time. Eliza's crying, how can you be so cruel? She's your sister. I showed the message to Rita and Heath. See what I'm dealing with. Classic enabler behavior, Heath said. They've built their whole reality around Elisa being the victim. When you threaten that narrative, they attack me instead of facing the truth, I finished. Which is exactly why this has to be handled carefully, Rita insisted. We need to... She was cut off by another text notification. This one made my heart stop. I know what you're planning, Elisa had written. Back off now, or I'll tell Mom and Dad what really happened the night of your graduation. Rita caught my expression. What is it? She's threatening me. I handed her the phone, my hands shaking. But she's bluffing. Nothing happened at graduation. Doesn't matter if it's true, Heath said grimly. She's showing her hand. She's scared. Good, Rita declared. Scared people make mistakes. And we'll be ready when she does. I stared at my sister's threat, feeling something shift inside me. The old fear was still there, but now it was overshadowed by determination. You know what? I said, picking up my phone. I'm done being manipulated. I typed quickly, go ahead, tell them whatever you want. I'm done protecting your lies. That's my girl, Rita said proudly. Now, about tomorrow's meeting with Carson. As Heath and Rita planned security measures for the coffee shop meeting, I felt stronger than I had in weeks. Elisa had always used my fear of conflict against me, counted on me backing down to keep the peace. But she'd never faced this version of me, the one who had nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed one final time that night. Elisa again. "You'll regret this." I smiled and turned off my phone. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of my sister's threats. Tomorrow would bring new revelations, but tonight, I finally felt in control. "Ready for dessert?" Heath asked, waving down the waiter. "Ready for everything," I replied, and I meant it. Capital Coffee was busy when I arrived, exactly at 10 a.m. I spotted Carson immediately, hunched over his laptop in a corner booth. He looked different, tired, guilty. Rita and Heath were positioned at separate tables, pretending to work while watching my back. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. Carson jumped slightly. "Alice, you came." He glanced around nervously. "Did anyone follow you?" "Why would someone follow me?" He leaned forward, voice low. "Because your sister's been watching me ever since she found out I was gathering evidence." "Evidence of what exactly?" Carson pulled out a USB drive. "Everything. The blackmail, the theft, the fake investment schemes. She's been doing this for years, Alice. Not just to you." My hand shook slightly as I took the drive. "Why are you helping me now? Why not when we were together?" "Because I was a coward." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "She threatened to ruin my career if I told you the truth about why we really broke up." "Which was?" "She came to my office the day before I ended things. Showed me doctored photos that made it look like I was embezzling company funds. Said she'd send them to the board unless I broke up with you and gave her a job." I felt the blood drain from my face. "She blackmailed you into breaking my heart? And into promoting her 6 months later." His laugh was hollow. "But I've been keeping records. Every threat, every scheme, it's all on that drive." A shadow fell across our table. My sister stood there, designer purse clutched tight, face twisted with rage. "Well, well," Elisa said, her voice dripping venom. "Having a cozy little chat." "How did you—" Carson started. "Find you?" She smiled coldly. "I put a tracker on your car weeks ago, darling. Paranoid, I know, but look how right I was." I stood up slowly. "You're done, Elisa. We have proof of everything." "Do you?" She pulled out her phone. "Because I have proof too. Like this video of Carson accepting bribes last year. Anonymous tip to the SEC would end his career instantly." "That video's fake," Carson protested, but his voice wavered. "Want to risk finding out?" Elisa's smile widened. "And Alice, dear sister, remember Dad's heart condition. Imagine how he'd react to learning his beloved daughter has been plotting against family. Using Dad's health to manipulate me? That's low, even for you." "I'm protecting our family," she hissed. "Something you clearly don't care about anymore." "Protecting family?" Rita's voice cut through the tension as she approached our table. "Is that what you call stealing from your sister while she was dying?" Elisa's composure cracked slightly. "Stay out of this. You don't know anything." "Actually," Heath said, joining us with his tablet, "we know everything, including your little counterfeit operation. FBI takes that pretty seriously." "You're bluffing," Elisa said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. I pulled out my phone, playing a recording, Elisa's own voice bragging about how she'd drained my accounts while I was unconscious. "Remember that drunk call you made to your friend last week?" I asked quietly. "Bragging about how clever you were?" "She sent me the recording this morning. Turns out not everyone admires your schemes." Elisa's face went white. "That's inadmissible." "In court, maybe," Heath interrupted. "But in the court of public opinion? In front of Mom and Dad, the country club committee?" "What do you want?" Elisa's voice was barely a whisper. "Everything you stole from me, plus interest," I said firmly. "And you're going to confess to Mom and Dad. All of it. They'll never believe. They will when they see the evidence. Every transaction, every fake investment, every stolen heirloom you sold online." I leaned closer, including Mum's ring. Tears welled in Elisa's eyes, real ones this time, not the manipulative drops she usually summoned. "You're supposed to be the good sister, the one who forgives." I was. For years I forgave everything, but you mistook kindness for weakness. I stood up straighter. That was your biggest mistake. I'll destroy you, she threatened, but her voice cracked. No, I said calmly. You won't. Because if you try, everything on this drive goes public. Your choice. Elisa looked around wildly, finding no allies in the hard faces surrounding her. For the first time in her life, charm and tears wouldn't save her. You have 24 hours to start transferring the money back, Rita said professionally, and to schedule a family meeting. Elisa turned and fled, leaving her designer purse behind. Inside, I knew we'd find more evidence. She always kept receipts of her schemes, too arrogant to imagine being caught. You okay? Carson asked softly. I looked at the USB drive in my hand, at Rita and Heath standing guard, at the empty space where my sister had stood. No, I admitted. But I will be. The doorbell rang at exactly noon. I opened it to find my mother standing there, her face a mask of disapproval. We need to talk about what you're doing to your sister, she said, brushing past me into Rita's house. Perfect timing, Rita called from the living room. We were just going through some interesting financial records. Mom froze at the sight of the documents spread across the coffee table. What is all this? Proof, I said simply. Sit down, Mom. There's something you need to see. I don't need to see anything. Elisa already told me you're trying to frame her out of jealousy. She remained standing, arms crossed. Did she tell you about this? I held up a printed receipt. The sale of your anniversary ring? The one she said she helped you look for when it was lost? Mom's face paled. That can't be right. Or these? I spread out more papers. Bank transfers from my accounts while I was in the hospital, security footage of her using my cards at different branches, the Mercedes she bought with my money the day after I was admitted. She said you gave her permission. While I was in a coma? My voice cracked. Really, Mom? Rita stepped forward, tablet in hand. Mrs. Blake, I understand this is difficult, but please look at these documents. Your daughter Elisa has been systematically stealing from both Alice and you for years. No, Mom shook her head. There must be some explanation. There is, Heath said, entering from the kitchen. Your younger daughter is a con artist who counted on family loyalty to cover her tracks. Who are you people? Mom demanded. Alice, what have you done? What I should have done years ago, gotten proof. I pulled up the audio recording from the coffee shop confrontation. Elisa's voice filled the room, threatening Carson, admitting to her schemes. Mom sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. That's not my Elisa, she wouldn't. But she did, Rita said gently. And there's more. For the next hour, we showed her everything. The fake investment schemes, the stolen heirlooms, the counterfeit operation. With each revelation, my mother seemed to age years. Why? She finally whispered. We gave her everything. That was the problem, I said quietly. You gave her everything, including permission to take from me. We never... You did. Every time you dismissed my concerns. Every time you said, that's just how she is, or family helps family. Every time you made me feel guilty for having boundaries. My phone buzzed. A text from Elisa. Mom's not answering her phone. What lies are you telling her? No lies needed, I muttered, showing Mom the message. The truth is, damning enough. Mom stared at her own phone as it lit up with another text from Elisa. Her hands shook as she read it. She's threatening to tell your father I knew about some of the missing jewelry, Mom said, voice hollow. She's blackmailing me now. Welcome to my world, I said, but without satisfaction. It hurt to see my mother's illusions shatter even if they needed to. What do we do? Mom looked up, suddenly seeming small and lost. First, you stop enabling her, Rita said firmly. No more excuses, no more cover-ups. Then, Heath added, you help us recover what she's stolen, starting with Alice's money. Your father, Mom started. Needs to know the truth, I finished. All of it. It'll break his heart. Elisa already broke it. He just doesn't know yet. Mom's phone rang, Elisa's face lighting up the screen. We all watched as Mom's finger hovered over the answer button. "Your choice, Mom," I said softly. "Keep protecting her lies, or stand with the truth." Mom took a deep breath and declined the call. Then, with shaking fingers, she typed out a message. "I've seen the evidence. No more lies, Elisa." Seconds later, Elisa's response appeared. "They're turning you against me. I'm your daughter." "So am I," I said quietly. "You just forgot that for a while." Mom started crying, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Alice. I should have seen it. Should have protected you too." "It's not too late," Rita said, handing Mom a tissue. "But what happens next depends on you." "Elisa needs help," Mom admitted. "Real help, not more enabling." "And consequences," Heath added. "The legal kind." Mom nodded slowly, straightening her shoulders. "When should we tell your father?" "Tonight," I said, "before Elisa can spin more lies." "He'll be home at 6, Mom said, standing up. "I'll text you when he's ready." As she left, she hugged me for the first time since my hospital stay. "I failed you," she whispered, "but I won't fail you again." I watched her drive away, feeling both lighter and heavier. The truth was finally emerging, but the hardest conversations still lay ahead. "Ready for round 2?" Rita asked. "Ready or not," I replied. "It's time." Dad's study had always been Elisa's territory. She'd perch on his desk, making him laugh with stories while I stood in the doorway, feeling like an intruder. Tonight I sat directly across from him, manila folders spread between us like battle lines. "This better be important," he said, frowning at Mom's tear-stained face. "I have a meeting in an hour." "Cancel it," Mom said quietly. "This can't wait." I opened the first folder. "Dad, what do you know about your retirement account?" "What kind of question is that? I check it every week." "Check it now." He pulled up the account on his computer, confidence morphing into confusion. "That's impossible. There must be a mistake." "No mistake," I said, sliding over bank statements. "Elisa's been siphoning money from it for months. Small amounts, nothing you'd notice right away." "Ridiculous," he snapped. "Eliza handles some of our investments, yes, but she'd never sell Mom's anniversary ring." I pulled up the online listing. "Or use my medical emergency to clean out my accounts." "Alice, if you're jealous of your sister's success..." "Success?" Mom's voice cracked. "Show him the Mercedes papers, Alice." I laid out the documents one by one. The car purchase, the luxury vacation bookings, the trail of stolen money leading to both. "She was at the hospital when I was admitted," I explained, "not to help me, but to access my accounts before anyone noticed I was unconscious." Dad's face had gone pale. "There has to be an explanation." "There is." I played the recording of Elisa threatening Carson, then the one of her bragging about stealing my money. Finally, the security footage from the bank. "No," Dad whispered. "My little girl wouldn't..." His phone buzzed. Eliza's timing was always perfect. "Daddy," her voice came through on speaker, sweet and panicked. "Alice is telling horrible lies about me. She's trying to turn everyone against me because she's jealous. You know me, Daddy. You know I'd never..." "Stop." Dad's voice was different, older, harder. "Are you in your new Mercedes right now, Princess?" A pause. Yes, but..." "The one you bought the day after your sister went into the hospital?" "I can explain." "With her money?" His hands were shaking. "While she was fighting for her life? Daddy, please. Come home. Now." He ended the call. The study fell silent except for Mom's quiet crying. Dad stared at the documents, shoulders slumped. "How long?" he finally asked. "Years," Mom admitted. "I suspected sometimes, but I didn't want to see it. She has a storage unit," I added quietly, "full of things she's stolen from both of you, including Dad's vintage watch collection that supposedly got lost in the move." Dad's head snapped up. "The ones from my father?" I nodded. "She's been selling them piece by piece." His face crumpled. "Those watches were supposed to be family heirlooms, passed down through generations. I enabled this," he said, voice rough. "Every time I dismissed your concerns, every time I gave her money to invest, every time I chose not to question her explanations. A car door slammed outside, heels clicked on the pathway. "She's here," Mom whispered. "Good." Dad straightened up, looking older than I'd ever seen him. It's time she faced what she's done. The front door opened. "Daddy?" Elisa's voice called out, sugary sweet. "What's going on?" "In here," Dad called back. She appeared in the doorway, designer outfit perfect, eyes already brimming with fake tears. Then she saw the documents on the desk. The tears vanished. "Whatever Alice told you." "Sit down." Dad's voice was steel. "But Daddy..." "Sit. Down." She sat, mask slipping as she realized her usual tactics wouldn't work. "The police are on their way," I said quietly. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. "We're family." "Family doesn't steal from family," Dad said. "Family doesn't exploit medical emergencies to commit fraud. Family doesn't sell their grandfather's watches for profit." Elisa's face went white. "The watches. Everything, Elisa. We know everything." She turned to Mom, desperate. "Mommy, please." "No more," Mom cut her off. "No more manipulation. No more lies." Red and blue lights flashed through the study window. Elisa jumped up, but Dad's voice stopped her. "Run and it gets worse," he warned. "Stay, cooperate, and we might be able to help you." "Help me?" She laughed hysterically. "I don't need help. I need you all to mind your own business." The doorbell rang. Mom went to answer it. "One last chance," I said to my sister. "Tell the truth. Take responsibility." Elisa's face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this. All of you." "No," Dad said sadly, watching officers enter the study. "I already regret not seeing the truth sooner." As they led Elisa away, her threats echoing through the house, I finally felt the weight of years of deception lifting. The truth hurt, but lies had hurt more. The courthouse corridor felt endless as we waited for Eliza's hearing to begin. Rita sat beside me, reviewing last-minute documents, while Heath paced nervously. My parents sat across from us, looking shell-shocked and aged. "She's refusing the plea deal," Rita murmured, checking her phone. "Her lawyer's trying to talk sense into her, but she still thinks she can charm her way out of this," I finished. The courtroom doors opened. Carson emerged, looking drained after giving his testimony about the blackmail. "She didn't even look at me," he said, dropping into a chair. "Just sat there smirking like this is all some game." "Because it always has been to her," Mum said quietly. "We taught her that there were no consequences." A court officer appeared. "They're ready for you, Ms. Douglas." Inside the courtroom, Elisa sat at the defendant's table in an expensive white suit, playing the innocent victim perfectly. Her mask slipped when she saw all of us file in together, replaced by a flash of rage. "The court calls Alice Douglas to the stand." Walking to the witness box, I felt Elisa's glare burning into me. I'd practiced this moment with Rita for weeks, but nothing prepared me for facing my sister directly. "Ms. Douglas," the prosecutor began, "please tell the court about the events following your hospitalization." I described waking up alone, discovering my accounts drained, the systematic theft that had occurred while I was unconscious. With each detail, I watched my sister's perfect facade crack further. "And the defendant is your sister?" the prosecutor confirmed. "Yes." "Had she shown similar behavior before?" "Objection," Elisa's lawyer called out. "I'll rephrase," the prosecutor said smoothly. "Had the defendant previously taken money from you?" "Many times. Always with promises to pay it back. Always with emotional manipulation when I asked about repayment." "And your parents?" "She stole from them too. Family heirlooms, retirement funds, anything she could access." Elisa's lawyer began his cross-examination, trying to paint me as the jealous sister, but the evidence was too solid. Bank records don't lie. Security footage doesn't lie. Audio recordings don't lie. "No further questions," he finally conceded. As I stepped down, Elisa stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. They're all lying because they're jealous of my success." "Ms. Douglas, sit down," the judge warned. "No, I worked hard for everything I have. They're just trying to destroy me because they can't handle that I'm better than them." Ms. Douglas, tell them, Daddy. Elisa turned to our father. Tell them how I've always been the successful one, the special one. The judge banged his gavel. Order! You're all pathetic, Elisa was screaming now. I deserve that money more than any of you. Alice was always the boring one, the responsible one. I made that money interesting. I made it matter. 2 court officers moved to restrain her. I should have made sure you never woke up, she shrieked at me. You ruined everything. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Mom started crying. Dad looked like he'd been shot. Remove the defendant, the judge ordered. We'll resume after a brief recess. As they led Elisa away, still screaming threats, I felt Rita's hand on my shoulder. You did it, she whispered. You stood your ground. The recess lasted an hour. When we returned, Elisa sat silently, her makeup smeared, her perfect image shattered. Her lawyer looked defeated. The judge's verdict was clear and damning. Grand theft, fraud, blackmail. The evidence was overwhelming and Elisa's outburst had destroyed any sympathy she might have garnered. 5 years, the judge announced, with possibility of parole after 3, contingent upon full restitution and completion of psychological counselling. Elisa didn't react. She just sat there staring straight ahead as if none of this was real. I'm so sorry, Mum whispered as we left the courtroom. We should have stopped this years ago. You can't change the past, I said, watching them lead my sister away. But we can learn from it. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. Rita helped shield me from their questions while Heath brought the car around. What now? Dad asked, looking lost. Now we heal, I said, and we make sure this never happens again. Your accounts should be restored within the week, Heath added. And I've already located most of the stolen items. Including your watches, Dad, I said softly. And Mom's ring. He nodded, tears in his eyes. The things don't matter anymore. We almost lost you and we didn't even realize it. As we drove away from the courthouse, I watched my sister's world of lies crumble in the rearview mirror. The truth had finally won, but victory felt hollow. We were all damaged, all changed by her betrayal. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something stronger from the ruins. The last box from Elisa's storage unit sat unopened on Rita's coffee table. Inside were the final pieces of our family's stolen history. Photos, jewelry, memories she'd tried to sell. You don't have to open it today, Rita said, pouring wine for our small gathering. Yes, I do. I lifted the lid, revealing layers of tissue-wrapped items. Mum and Dad should be here soon. They need to see everything. Heath helped me unwrap each piece, documenting them for the final restitution report. Carson sat nearby, adding details to his testimony for the civil suit that would follow the criminal case. The doorbell rang. My parents entered, looking both stronger and more fragile than they had at the trial. Mum carried a familiar leather album. Found this in her apartment, she said, setting it down. It's your baby photos, the ones she claimed were lost in the flood. Of course they were. I managed a small laugh. She really did try to erase me, didn't she? Not anymore, Dad said firmly, sitting down beside me. Look what I picked up today. He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was his father's pocket watch, the first piece Elisa had stolen and sold. How? I gasped. Rita's contacts traced it to a collector in Seattle, Heath explained. Once he learned it was stolen, he returned it immediately. Speaking of returns, Rita interjected, the bank completed the transfer this morning. All your accounts have been restored, plus interest. Mum touched a framed photo we'd just unwrapped. I remember this day, your high school graduation. Elisa was so angry that all the attention was on you. That's when it started, I realized. The stealing, the lies. She couldn't stand not being the center of everything. We fed that need, Dad admitted. Every time we excused her behavior, we made it worse. The doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a thick envelope from the prison. It's from Elisa, I said, recognizing the handwriting. Do you want to read it? Rita asked. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a key. Dear family, the psychiatrist here says I need to make amends. I don't know if I can or want to, but she says I have to try. The key opens a safety deposit box at First National. Everything I couldn't sell is there. Family photos, Dad's military medals, Mum's diary. I kept the things that would hurt you most to lose. I'm not sorry for taking what I deserved, but maybe I'm sorry for how I took it. Don't visit, don't write back, just take the stuff and forget me. Elisa. Well, Carson said after a long silence, that's almost an apology. It's more than I expected, Mum whispered. It's not enough, Dad said firmly, but it's something. I set the letter down among the recovered treasures. You know what? I don't need her apology. I don't need anything from her anymore. Rita raised her glass. To freedom. To truth, Heath added. To family, Mum said, looking at me with tears in her eyes. The real kind. To karma, Carson smiled. To healing, Dad finished. I looked around at these people, my unexpected allies, my restored parents, my true family. The empty space where Elisa should have been didn't hurt anymore. To second chances, I said, raising my glass, and to being strong enough to demand them. My phone buzzed. Another message from the prison. I ignored it. Elisa's words couldn't control me anymore. Her threats couldn't frighten me. Her manipulation couldn't reach me. What should we do with all this? Heath gestured at the boxes of recovered items. Build something new, I decided. Mum, remember how you always wanted to make family history albums? She brightened. Yes, let's do it. Right now. Let's put everything back where it belongs, but better this time. Stronger. We spent the evening sorting through recovered treasures, sharing stories, rebuilding connections. Each item found its proper place. Dad's watches in their case, Mum's jewellery in her box, my photos back in their albums. The space left by Elisa's betrayal slowly filled with something else. Truth, strength, and real love. The kind that builds up instead of tearing down. You know what? Rita said as we finished. She tried to destroy your family, but she actually forced you to build a better one. I looked at my parents, laughing together as they rediscovered old memories. At Carson, finally free of guilt and fear. At Rita and Heath, who'd become more than allies. She did, I agreed. Just not the way she intended. The last item from the box was a small mirror, one Elisa used to practice her innocent expressions in. I closed the box without putting it back. Some things were better left in the past. Ready to go home? Dad asked. I smiled, truly smiled for the first time in months. I already am.